Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers only.
Oh, have I got your attention now?
Hey guys, welcome back. Another episode of Coffee with Closers Live. Man, I'm feeling great today. Don, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. I'm fighting a bit of a cold, so I'll probably be muting my mic here and there, but I'm happy to be on. So,
and the man, the myth, the legend himself in the flesh, Mr. Philip Vincent.
Yeah. Hi, boys. How are you guys today?
We're doing good, man.
What is up, my friend? How are you, brother? I just threw him out to the wolves here, so he's probably still getting his system set up.
I am doing great.
Oh, there you go.
Doing so good.
Technical difficulties.
There's so much
difficulties. We got some mic issues.
Opportunity
over here,
around.
No big deal, brother. No big deal, man.
All of us. I hope that everyone understands that and has a positive outlook on this new year in front of us right now.
I love it, man. I love it. I love it. Gavin should be joining us here in just a minute, guys. I believe he is on the road today, but we are really thrilled to have Philip on.
Here, let me change my mic. Hold on.
Oh yeah, you're good, man.
I think it's your internet, brother. Yeah, I think it's your internet, man. So
no big deal. But Phil is the founder of Mom's House, and you guys can check out more about Mom's House at momshouse.com. Phil has an amazing program, and he has really niched himself into the senior living space, and he is literally the best person and the go-to person that I know, all things senior living. I met Phil probably about 7 years ago when I first started doing real estate full-time. In fact, it's probably a little over 7 years at this point, but it was funny because Phil was on, and I think his thing's frozen, so we'll let him fix that and come right back. But Phil was working. He lives in St. Louis here with me. This is where I live. And Phil was working at the time as an acquisition manager for Faster House. And I actually had Brian Schroeder on this show, the owner of Faster House, just a couple weeks ago. It's probably about a month ago. And Brian is just one of my favorite people. He's awesome. Phil, too. But I met Phil at one of these RIA meetings that Faster House was hosting. And I think he's back, maybe. But I walked up to Phil at the meeting and I was like, man, I heard you on the Bigger Pockets podcast. And it's so awesome that you are here locally in St. Louis, you know, and I'm glad that I get this opportunity to meet you. And man, me and Phil have been friends ever since that day. We've hung out lots of times and got lunches, and we even took a trip to Nashville together at this point. And he is just a great guy, one of my good buddies, and I'm just really grateful and happy to have him here on the show today. Phil, sounds like you maybe got some of that stuff worked out on your end. Still working on it. Hey, guys, no big deal at all. No big deal. Don, fill us in while Phil's getting his microphone set up here. What's going on with this $1 million net in 90 days, bro? You're like 8 days in, 7 days in, 9 days in. How far are you in? You're probably 10%.
it's the insanity. No, I'm not 10% in. No, we have, you know, it's something I want to share is that the power of putting something out there whenever you speak something into existence. I know people talk about that a lot, but you know, we talked about me setting that crazy goal and not having necessarily a plan in place. And I set that goal and it was crazy. Like the next day I get a call from a buddy of mine and he's like, you know, I gotta, you know, he's buying storage units, he's doing some other stuff. And he's like, I gotta expand out of this little area I'm in, but I'm not a good marketer. And I'm like, I'm a good marketer, but I don't know how to evaluate these types of deals. It's just not in my wheelhouse. That's something I've done in the last few years. And so we had a whole conversation about it. And by the end of that day, I had a list of about 3,200 names and addresses. Skipped that list. Yeah. And the next morning I had 2,200 of those come back. And so we are in the process of putting some processes in place to start cold calling and marketing to that list. So
can you,
it's just, we can hear you, boss, but your internet's choppy. And we got Gavin. Yeah. So, but it's just, when you're setting goals, when you're making plans, it's really funny is the wrong word, but I think it's just really important to understand like the power of speaking something into existence. And part of that is just being in a place of being able to recognize opportunity. I think had I not said it out loud and decided that that was the path I was going to be on, I may or may not have recognized the opportunity that was before me, if that makes sense.
I agree.
So there's that. So we have a few things in place. We have a few things in place. I've shifted some people around to do a few things. So I'll probably have a momentum report in the next week or two on kind of where we're at traction wise, but we definitely have some good irons in the fire right now. So,
hey Phil, we can hear you, bro.
We can't.
That's all right. He's still working on his mic over there.
I think
Gavin,
it's
what's up, bro? How you
his
doing,
internet,
man?
boss.
Good to see that pretty
I
face
know.
of yours.
Happy New Year. How
Happy
are you
New
both?
Year, buddy.
How's it going?
It's going, man. It's going good. It's going good. Don was just filling us in on his 90-day mission to net and clear $1 million, which is such a crazy, awesome goal. Don, when does it officially start? Was it January 1 or
January 1? Yeah.
you're 5 days in? That's
I'm
awesome.
5 days in. Yeah.
5 days in. That's
Awesome.
5%, basically.
Yeah.
Love
5%.
it.
Yeah.
5%. Man, 5% of $1 million is 50,000. Did you make that 50 yet?
Not actually. I'm almost there.
Okay.
So
Nice.
I was gonna say no, but you know what? Yeah, actually, I'm almost there. So we'll see. Now,
yeah.
whether or not that's net, that's a whole different story. But yeah, we got traction.
Right.
We got traction.
Hey, that's all that matters, man. Having some traction. I love it. I love it. Hey, Phil, one thing I want to suggest if you are, if you can hear me, bro, is just use your phone. Doesn't have to be anything super professional here. Just use your phone and turn your Wi-Fi off even. Just use the regular cell networks and your phone should be able to connect. And then you can get rid of the computer and this fancy mic and no big deal at all, brother. We
was saying about opportunity. I mean, I your guys' internet here.
we can hear you kind of at this point. Yeah, I got you the link over there, brother. If you can hear me, just use your phone. It's no big deal at all. I was actually just testing it on my phone a minute ago, and it was working pretty well here. Gavin, what's up, man? What's new, brother?
Not a lot, bud. I'm in Phoenix. I've been sick for like several days. Over New Year,
Everybody
which
is sick
sucked,
right now.
Yeah.
which has just been brutal over New Year, but feeling a lot better now. So kind of just getting into it. It's kind of like, yeah, I've been kind of been out of the game. So trying to get back into it. So yeah, just all good, really.
You need a cold plunge, bro. That'll wake you up.
I know. How's that going?
Go ahead, go holler at our buddy Corey and jump in his. You're in the city with him.
I know. What about how's yours doing? Have you
It's
been in
going
it?
well, man. I've only used it 4 times. The day I bought it, or I should say the day I received it, because it took a couple months to arrive. I used it that day, and then I went and played hockey, and I pulled my MCL in my right knee.
How's
So it's
that?
healing. I can walk. I've been walking a couple miles here and there every day, but I'm not ready to get back at hockey or basketball or any sports or anything at this point. And basically, I was really uneasy about getting in and out of it with that messed up knee. So I've only used it a few times since I bought it, but I like it. The last time I did it, I did 15 minutes at 49 degrees. And I think I pushed it a little too hard because I was cold for like an hour. I could not get warm. But I think not so much the temperature being that low, but the duration. I think I was in there for too long. But I plan on jumping in there this afternoon for 5 to 10 minutes. And man, it gives you such a crazy rush of endorphins, wakes you up. And I was actually telling my wife just the other day, I was like, it's easier to get into this tub that's 49 degrees than it is to stand in a cold shower. I don't know why.
Really?
Cold showers are
harder,
in my opinion.
See, I have to get it warm and then back it in.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Cold.
So when you jump into the cold tub, it's really, here's the thing, you go numb pretty quick. because you're like, it's everywhere versus just cold water hitting you with the air still. When you're fully submerged, not fully, but up to your head or whatnot, it's really not that bad. Getting in and out of it's not the hard part. It's the mental. The hardest part is getting up the mental strength to just say, I'm gonna do this. I'm jumping in.
Yeah.
So, all right, Phil, Vincent, we're back on the phone. Crystal clear audio and video.
Yay! Guys, you buy the fastest internet you can get your hands on, then you go to use it one day when you need it to be live, and it's not there. So I switched offices, and I'm here. So I'm good. Good to be on.
We're so happy to have you. It's 11:13 Central Time, so we didn't miss much, man. No problem at all. But we're so happy to have you. As always, we love hanging out with you and talking with you. So let's talk real estate. So this is an interactive show. We are going to encourage all the audience, listeners, viewers, YouTube, Facebook, wherever else they may be watching, to chime in and to ask questions. So at certain points in the show, you may see questions pop up on the bottom of the screen, and we encourage that. We want the audience to be a part of this show. So just FYI there. But Phil, really quickly, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you, and why does it matter?
I'm from St. Louis. I'm founder of a company called Mom's House, and we specialize in how the senior living industry correlates with real estate investors. And I want to be clear right out of the gate. I'm not going to teach you guys or tell you guys about how to turn a single family house into a residential assisted living community. There's plenty of people out there that do that, and they do it well. What I'm talking about is that family, let's say the four of us are brothers, and we find out today, right now we get a text that our mom has to move into senior living. We all look at each other like, is she going to live by Gavin? Is she going to live by Don? Is she going to live by me and David? I mean, is she going to stay right where she is? How are we going to pay for this, right? What are we going to do to pay for this? And so basically, the family realizes very quickly after they figure out where mom's going to get the best care is, how do we trade mom's equity for care? And these houses that they're selling, it's their forever home, right? Mom's lived in it since 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s. Pick a decade. They've been in there forever. And so as real estate investors, I've always I'm a big proponent of work smarter, not harder. So I was always trying to figure out where are the best leads. David, when you and I get together, even today, we're like, what's next? Where are the leads at? What is this future of this business? And I mean, look how fast things change, guys. What happened just yesterday with data and everybody trying to do this business nationwide? The data sources have changed, right? What's your opinions on that?
So Matt's got a question here. What's your guys' thoughts on a lot of these companies not allowing the MLS access?
Yeah, there you go. There it is. I mean, it's a topical thing.
Same question Phil's got. So Don and I were on just a little early chatting about this, and there's obviously lots of other providers like Batch, some of my favorite guys out there that can provide these comps. I know Propelio lost comps even prior to PropStream yesterday. They lost them like 2 or 3 months ago. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely going to be a challenge for anybody that's doing nationwide. Absolutely. Batch is obviously still going to be a good solution, but you never know.
So let me ask you a question. What do you think happened to make that where they don't get the data anymore? Do we know what was the catalyst of why this happened?
I had a conversation with the PropStream team and from their side of the equation, essentially MLX is flex control. And so they are working on getting, I guess, a backup resource in place, kind of fill in that gap. So I'm not sure what their solution is, but they'll have a solution, really, really quick for that. But like I said, from their perspective, their side of the story is MLS. According to them, everybody's going to lose MLS data, sold data. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I was told, is at some point everybody's going to lose it. We'll see if that actually pans out. I have a feeling there's probably some other things in the background that have played into them losing that data at this point in time. But I also know the PropStream team really well, and I know that they will, if there's a solution out there, they will have a solution up and going sooner than later. So, but it does pose the question of, what are you relying on? And so you have tax records, you have public records that you can utilize to make your decisions. Now, in some of the non-disclosure states, that's a little hard to do. Zillow is a great tool, if used properly. Obviously, this estimate we know doesn't work, but you can utilize Zillow to come up with, quick and dirty comp. But nothing beats understanding your market. I mean, Phil, I'm sure in St. Louis, you know where to buy, not to buy, and you pretty much know on that street about what that house is going to sell for. And so nothing beats understanding your market. So when you're going into a virtual market, your goal should not be relying on some data company. Your goal should be making sure that you're learning the areas that market that you should be prioritizing and understanding the values in the different areas. And as long as you have a ballpark sense, like I know in Fresno about what something's going to sell for in any given neighborhood. And so I can tell you right off the bat without even comping it, it's going to be about here. My rehab is going to be about there, and I should buy it about here. And that's important as you're building a real business, that you start to understand that information about the market you're operating in. And if you always use data as a crutch, something like this is going to happen, and you're going to be blind, and that's not a good way to run a business.
And I think you're exactly right, Don. But how do we speak then for the people that are new, the people that don't know that insight yet, because they've got to learn that insight? So what
relationships. I mean, how I learned the market was, back in 2003, when I started, or even 2012, before I even knew about PropStream or Batch or some of these things. And I would network with agents, and I would create relationships with agents, and I have agents run comps for me. It'd be MLS comps, but it gave me an opportunity to have conversations about like what they were looking at and why they were making those decisions about the values and what neighborhoods were worth touching and not touching. And then so it was those relationships, and then gathering the experience, through the years, that allowed me to kind of like hone that radar, so to speak. But relationships go a long way in this business. Networking with agents is not a bad thing to do, because they're going to throw you a deal here and there too. So, if you're newer and you're trying to learn a market, go to the RIAs, talk to agents, reach out to people who are already investing, and have the conversations and start to get a sense of your market. It's important to do that no matter what, not to rely just on the data. So in the meantime, again, Zillow and some of the Batch and some of these other resources, you can still find the comps you need to make a general decision, to at least move forward on a deal. And at the end of the day, if you're wholesaling, it's really about what your buyer is going to pay. That's really what matters. So have these open conversations with your buyer. Hey, I'm working on this deal over here.
Yeah, lean on the buyers.
Yeah, what
local?
Where do you need to be on this? Right. So, that's really important. We still do that. We have experience, but we have our buy box, and there are buyers that'll pay more than us. So if we have something that's outside our buy box and there's a question mark, we'll reach out to a buyer we trust and say, hey, what are you willing to give us for this? And then we'll negotiate backwards from that number. So anyway, That's my 2 cents.
I love it. Gavin, what about you, buddy? I know you're mostly virtual. Gavin. What are your thoughts on this?
Oh, me? Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking to Phil. No, I mean, I think, for me, obviously, I normally use Zillow and Redfin anyway, because I feel that they are the most anyway. I will use, if I can't get the data, normally Zillow's my go-to, Redfin's my backup, or then I will use probably Batch and then PropStream. Because sometimes you will get comps when others won't, but that's kind of my go-to, because I feel it's the most consistent for the most part, especially when you're teaching people. I think companies are always going to be, trying to stay ahead, but I think something like Zillow, they normally seem to be somewhat reliable, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's a free resource. When you say Zillow,
it's a free resource.
These are free resources. So
yeah,
PropStream and Batch are great resources, but they're paid. They're not free. Correct. So a lot of these people that are, maybe new to the business that, can't afford having 5 subscription softwares. I mean, I probably have 15 of them.
I was saying they add up fast, don't they?
I was going to say, I'm sure you guys probably got 15 of them too, man. I probably got 15 subscriptions that I pay every month. It's $2,000 or $3,000 at the end of the month, but they're all very, very useful tools. But you don't need all of these, I think, is what you're saying, Gavin. You don't need all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't need all of these. And we're talking about, obviously sold comps, and Don's exactly right. And sometimes we do lean on the data. I have to rely on data, especially if I'm coaching and I'm going into virtual markets for people. If I'm on coaching calls, I don't have the relationship. So I do rely on data personally when I'm analyzing things, because that's the only thing I have to go off, because I don't have relationships in every market. So I think me in my own business, the way that I would do it, and then me as a coach in the way I do it, I do rely on data, because if I'm going to look at something, I need to get in there and see what's sold. In your non-disclosure states become harder, and that's where sometimes you have to then go and rely on the realtors, right? You have to do your networking, and sometimes then we have to teach that, because if I can't see what's selling, I have a look at active as a backup, what is actively on the market. and how quickly kind of does it sell, and try and figure out it was listed for this, it sold quick, or hold on, this house is at 150 grand, it's been on there for 95 days, clearly not a deal. So, and we're over that. So sometimes I will reverse that to make sure that if we have a deal at 100,000, but we can buy a property right now better on the MLS for 80, then we clearly don't have a deal, right? We're too high. So
Right.
I use things like that as a backup. But it is, kind of worrying that if we did lose all the data, especially again on a virtual thing, from a coaching aspect, like I said, I do rely on it too much.
But I want to hit on something you said, because listed goes a long way. You can look at listed, and if the average properties are listed in that particular area for about average size and everything, we know comparables, right, are listed about the same price point. You know about where you should be listing your property because everybody else is listing there. If the days on market are high at that, days on market for the listed are high at that amount, then you know that they're having a problem selling it. And that's an indication that you're probably going to want to list yours a little lower. So you can still reverse engineer listed properties to get to about where you need to be, especially if you're wholesaling. I mean, if you're going hard with cash and you're flipping, you're going to want that sold data. I mean, you don't want to go in blind. But if you're wholesaling, you can make a pretty darn good guesstimate off of listed, and everybody's got that data at this point in time.
That's true. That's a great point.
So so I just want to hit that.
Yeah,
I love it.
Good.
Phil, you sidetracked us by asking that question, man. We want to talk
and
about
it's okay, man. I think
we want to talk about Phil Vincent. We want to talk about Mom's House.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I think Mom's House is the real estate business, right? So talking about this is our business, right? And I feel like there's some things right now that it's easier than it's ever been to be in this business, but then I think there's a lot of things that make it way harder. And let me give you the example about data.
Yeah.
Me and Don, what we were saying earlier is we know our shit in our gut. We know what it's worth, right? But as the values are moving so fast, if I was a rookie, you know what I mean? I would be scared. And by the way, why I work with people and train people nationwide is because I don't know the local data. That's why I do it that way, because I would be scared to make that offer. None of us can make an offer, I feel, until we have what we think the ARV is, the after repair value. If we don't know the retail value, how the heck do you back into an offer, right? If you don't, you got to believe your own
start
stuff.
with the ARV, no matter what. I don't care if you're flipping, wholesaling, lease optioning.
Yep, you better know it.
Doesn't matter. You start with that number.
And what I was reading yesterday is the conundrum is if we take the data away, everybody's going to immediately go so conservative that they're not going to buy anything because they'll never be in the ballpark of sell or buyable, sellable, depending on which party you are. But my point is that it's going to affect some people,
I think this guy meant to say bald, and they are.
I'm bold too, so that guy is dead right twice.
These guys are damn sexy.
Take your hat off, Gavin.
Brent,
Take your hat off, Gavin.
We love you too, man. I love it. Phil, what is Mom's House? Let's start there. For anybody and everybody that is watching, listening. I mean, this is a podcast too. It's a live stream, of course, right now, but this is a podcast too. So somebody may stumble across this in 3 years from now. Momshouse.com. That's the URL.
Momshouse.com. Right? What is it?
What is it?
It's I would say it's a movement, and I know that's a grandiose thing to say, but it's a movement, right? We're trying to help these families going through one of the hardest times of their life. When you move your mom into senior living, that's right up there with death. In fact, I've heard people say it was harder to move her into senior living than it was when she actually passed away. And I thought that was a profound thing to say. I'm like, wow, because I've not experienced it yet. My mom's still young, so I haven't done this yet, but I've lived this with these families for 10 years. And what we're doing is we're trying to bring something good. Let's just talk about the senior living industry for a second. Senior living, when they hear the word investor, we love the word investor in this show, right? We'll say investor, investor, investor. But in senior living, when they hear it, all they're going to hear is the word shark or discount or, these things that they don't want to hear, right? And I would say even might be right up there with it is the word real estate agent. The term crocodile brain, when you meet somebody that's a mortgage broker or a financial planner or a real estate agent, your brain just turns off because you know exactly what that is. You're like, oh, okay, here we go. Mm-hmm. Well, the senior living world has been using real estate agents, allowing them just to go figure it out. And hey, I had a student in my class the other day. He said I had 4 people do walkthroughs, and he owned a senior living community. Let me be clear. Okay. He said 4 people came through, and 3 of them said, hey, we need to sell our house before we can move mom in here. And he said to them, go call a real estate agent, and when you figure that out, come back and see me. And in my head is just like exploding. I'm like, this dude just left $100,000 on the table, and he could have served his own business by helping them turn that equity into cash for care so they can pay for his own business, right? And guys, I want to talk to you guys today about where I think the cheese is moving, where this business is going. If you look at over the next 20 years, there's $9 trillion, that's with a T, worth of homes that are owned outright by these baby boomers. That is our industry, guys.
$9 trillion in the U.S.
Yeah, over the next 20 years.
Woo!
That's that transfer of wealth. And guess what? That wealth ain't even going to go to the kids. It's going to go to pay for their care. That's 10, 12, 13 grand a month, right? That equity is going to get traded for care. It's not the retirement, because people are living longer, right? That even the government doesn't know what to do right now with this silver tsunami of seniors that are coming. And so where I think things are headed,
tsunami.
the silver tsunami, where things are headed right now is something called a sell and stay model. And I think we're going to hear more and more and more about a sell and stay model. I'll give you the reason why. Why did Zillow lose their ass? Well, they tried to get into the flipping business. First of all, they overpaid and they tried to get into the flipping business. We all know the hardest thing to scale is rehabbing, right? So they have all these houses on the books that need the $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in rehab. And what do you know? They ran out of workers because it's hard to scale rehab. We could have told them that before they ever started, right? Because we could have told them that. But where I think you could do.
And they didn't ever have any intentions of being a wholesale business. It was always, let's buy them and fix them, which I think is the dumbest thing. But that's what they did. Brother,
man, we could have told them that, but they didn't ask us, right? And so my point to that is that not a reverse mortgage, which is something very different, but a sell and stay. And here's the reason why. If 10 people walk into a senior living community, one of them's ready to go. They need to do it like today because the doctor said that. But the other 9 are thinking about it. The thing they're thinking about is how the heck they're going to pay for it. And so where I think the sell and stay model is going to happen is whether they need to sell me their house and stay there for 3 months, 6 months, which I think will be the blended average is about 6 months. But maybe it's 1 year, maybe it's 2 years. What's going to happen is it's kind of like having a leased car. You ever turn in a leased car? You're like, here's your keys. I'm out of here. I think that same thing's going to happen with real estate because I can buy the senior's house. Guess what? I don't have to go find a tenant. I can discount for the things that need to be done. They have equity. Now they have the cash ready to go. And when it's time for them to move into senior living, that's off the table. They already have their equity in their hand. I think that's where this is headed for us. And so, guys, if you want to buy investment properties, I know everybody on here right now is listening. They want to buy rentals. I think this is a pretty genius way to get involved with Mom's House is that you'll have lots of at-bats to buy houses from seniors that will actually end up being your tenant from anywhere from 1 to 2 years, I would say, but the blended average price 6 months. And then when they move out, then you rehab it, then you wholesale it, but you could keep them as rentals and you won't have that downtime of not having someone pay you the rent. And you can already see how they treat the house. It's their damn house. You already know exactly how they're going to treat it.
So I already know that Don is going to say, be careful. So Don, I'm going to say it for you, but I want you to explain. But
there's a lot to be careful.
Here's the thing. I know he's not going to be arguing, Phil, by any means, and we both agree. I think.
No, I understand the problems too. I want to talk about them. Let's talk about
but and here's the thing. I do want to say that for. Go ahead, Don. I'll show you.
My be careful is more so to properties in default. You know, you do whenever you buy somebody's house and you rent their house back to them when it's their house. There's going to be this attachment issue that I think you're going to run into with them, which I'm sure Phil would more than cover in this training. But my be careful is more so when a house is in default. There's a lot of states that have laws on the books that people are unaware of about renting properties back, or equity skimming is what they call it. When you take somebody's property and you essentially, the states call it stealing their equity. I call it serving them and solving a problem. But, the states have their own word for it because probably some bad people did some bad things. And when you take somebody's property and then you rent it back to them, and especially if you turn around and refinance and pull that equity out while you're renting back to them, you could end up in some trouble in certain states. So that's where I say be careful. In this particular situation with what Phil's talking about, I don't think that there are state laws that are going to be issues. The only thing you need to make sure is that everybody understands what they're doing, because it is somebody's house that's probably been their house for 40 years or 50 years. And there is going to be that attachment. And when you come in as a landlord and you try to ask them to do anything with that property, there's probably going to be some blowback. But that's a whole different argument. So I just want to phrase, like, might be careful, Dave, has nothing to do with about its default. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's from California, right? Don's a California guy.
California. I've heard people who live in California.
Always
always.
Right?
Yeah.
And he also said when families are in default, I want to be clear that 9 times out of 10, these seniors have owned the house outright.
Yeah.
And I also want to be clear that I think because I'm getting them so late in the cycle, I think they're only going to use this service for like 3 months to 12 months with a blended average of 6 months. You know, I don't think it's going to, a reverse mortgage, people can have those for 10, 15 years sometimes, right?
Yeah.
That's way early in the process.
Same thing, really.
Because of how Mom's House is and when we get them, I think it's a service that will just take that off their plate where they don't have to have the fear of doing a double move. Nobody wants to leave their house, guys.
Literally on the last episode last week, I just did one, Phil, where I bought and I'm wholesaling it actually. But the lady wanted to rent back from us for like 2-3 months. So we put 10 grand in escrow, and we said the first month's free.
Yeah.
But after 30 days, 2,000 of that 10's coming back, and you can have all 10 of it if you're out within 30 days.
Yeah.
And we're wholesaling it to another guy, and he's okay with that agreement. So the escrows will just transfer from coming to me to him, you know, and we're just assigning that over. And absolutely great.
And let's talk about the equity skim too, Don. That term equity skim. Right. If somebody owns the house outright and I buy it from them, that's one transaction, right?
Right. And
then the secondary transaction is me finding a renter. If it happens to already be that person there, aren't those two very separated, or you're saying the state looks at it as one transaction?
Well,
you know what I'm asking here?
Yeah. The states look at it like, you know, we have to be careful as investors. There's a lot of states will have laws will say you can't take undue advantage, and there's no description of what undue advantage is. Does that mean if they have $100,000 in equity and we buy it with all $100,000 in equity going to us, that's taking advantage? Or does that mean it has $100,000 in equity, give them $95,000, we're only taking $5,000 in equity? Is that taking advantage? And you really run into these things when people are in default. But you also you need to walk that fine line when you're working with the elderly. Like you always talk about involving the family and that kind of thing, because there's elder abuse too. There's elder abuse laws you have to be careful of, and so you want to make sure you involve the family. You want to make sure you involve, there's the facilitators that help them get into facilities and stuff like that. You want to make sure you involve those people if family's not involved in that decision making, so no one can come back and say that you took advantage or that you equity skimmed. Because if you buy the house with equity in it and then you rent it back, and like I said, if you keep it as a rental and you refinance it, pull out equity out, and then they try to claim you took advantage, you just want to make sure you disclose everything. Like my contract says, I'm in the business to make a profit, and you're okay with it. I'm buying a house under market value, and you're okay with it. That's all in my contract. Like, this is what I do. This is why I do it. And you are good with it. And they even initial right there saying, like, I understand. And it's in bold letters and everything, because I believe in disclosing everything. And then, I want to make sure that if it's a default situation or it's an elderly situation, that I cover my bases twice. And it's more for us that are good people trying to do the right thing by people. Did we just basically cover ourselves? Because there are a lot of people out there, let's be honest, there are a lot of people out there that aren't being the best they could be in this business, and they're causing a lot of headaches for those of us who are.
Yep.
So
yeah, they're predatory. Yeah. And I've seen some CYA stuff happening in this space I'm talking about, where they give the family the opportunity to buy it back at a predetermined price. So then that kind of hedges the bet to say that they still were kind of in control. Now, that would be a little harder, David, if we were trying to wholesale them as they were already living there. But if you were truly going to keep it, that, and what I've heard is that people never take you up on that. They just like to know that they could buy it back. Because one of the things about senior living with Mom's House is almost every adult child tells their mom, hey, Mom, when you get better, you can move back home. And that's one of those things that doesn't happen. Nobody gets better with age, right?
Yeah,
that's not how it works,
So I want to tackle this right here, because Matt makes this comment. It sounds like it's a hard space. I'm sure families are attached to the house. Do they want to sell, or do they feel forced to sell? I just want to hammer that, because I know what you're teaching, Phil, and I don't think it's a hard space. I think that there is a problem that needs to be served. I think these families have these assets, like you talked about, stuff. They have stuff from 40 years of living in that house that they want, to not be forced or rushed out of the house. And the way you talk about doing this is working with families as a teammate to help them be successful. We got cats going on. We got technical difficulties.
Hey, we all made it
live. It's definitely live, folks.
So, but I know the point is it's not a hard space when you really break it down. As long as you're a problem solver and you're doing it for the right reasons and treating people the right way, like any other space in this industry. So I just wanted to. That sounded like an objection I want to handle. I know Matt really, really well. Matt's a good dude. And I know the way you teach this, Phil, is really about serving families and making sure that you're a solution and not an adversary in any way.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Don. I mean, you've been through my 3-day training. I mean, it's 3 days worth of training, and it could be 5 days. It could be more, because it's just so much to this. I try to browbeat everybody that's there into having empathy, right? And it's hard, because a lot of people in our industry just don't have that. And so, like I said, I feel like Mom's House is a mission, right? We're trying to take that really, really hard time in life and make this one thing go right. You just found out mom has to move into senior living. You just find out how much it costs. And then if you do meet with the real estate agent and they're like, clean this place out and do this list of rehab before we list it, they're like, I don't even live in this town. I don't want to do that. What else can we do here? And so that's where Mom's House is, where we're trying to fill that gap, but do it with, you guys have heard me say, I feel like I'm in the hugs and kisses business of the real estate side. And most people are just in the wham bam business.
Right.
Very different,
I love
it's
it.
it's a solution that needs to be handled. I mean, there's families that are scattered across the country or scattered in different cities that have a situation, and instead of fighting amongst themselves about how to resolve that situation, you're providing a solution for them to have an easy way to make sure that mom's taken care of. So,
and what's crazy is the house might be a small part of it. A lot of times we hit on the stuff earlier. It's hard to sell those memories. It's funny, guys. I was just in Florida this week with my own father. He was the youngest of 4, and I asked him about his experience the day they sold his parents' house, because I was a young boy. I was like 10 or 12 years old, right? And my dad was the youngest, and he lived out of town. So I got to hear his perspective. He said, I was so sad because, first of all, it rained the day they did the auction. They sold the house and all the stuff at one auction, right? Because they lived in a rural area, and it was raining. And my dad said, I couldn't believe how mad my dad would have been to know all of his stuff was getting rained on out there. And then for what things were selling for, my dad would have been so mad because the value to him would have been so much higher that it's like an insult to injury when you get that little check for what all of dad's stuff was worth, and I had never heard that from my own parent, right? I haven't gone through that yet myself personally, but to hear his experience, that was the first time I ever heard him say how emotional that was for him. And and by the way, guys, the more we talk about this, the more I'm on shows like this, the more you're at dinner and you're talking to your friends and family, lots and lots and lots of people are going through this or will be over the next 20 years. It's coming for all of us, really. I heard a wise man once say, we're all going to work in senior living, whether we want to or not, so you might as well embrace it. And I thought that was a pretty good way to look at this. Like, this is where the deals are coming from is, people that are 82 and not 28 years old on average.
Yeah.
Well, you hit on something I want to just point out. There's emotional value and there's actual value. And I think when we're negotiating, this is coffee with closers, right? So I think when we're negotiating with sellers, that sometimes we forget that. We're all about the numbers, we're all about the bottom line, and we forget that there's emotional value and there's actual value. And a lot of times, sellers are coming from an emotional situation. Like you've talked about, Phil, they have stuff and they don't know what they're going to do with their stuff. And, that's 40 years of their kids growing up and a spouse that passed away and different things. And it may have no intrinsic value on the street, but it's got a memory that you can't replace. And so, the house that you lived in that you're losing to foreclosure, or all these things that sellers go through that a lot of us coming into this business don't even stop to take the time to think about and try to have a conversation about how do I help you serve that emotional hole, type of situation. So I just want to hit on that as well. The emotional value versus actual value. Think about that when you're talking to sellers.
And let's talk about our actual value. I want to leave you guys with a story that I've been using in my training. About 10 years ago, I bought a house from a mom and a daughter, and it was the uncle's house that had passed away. And what they had in it was, he was a bit of an audiophile, the term like high-end stereo equipment. Well, he had a very cool piece of furniture. It was like a 1961 or 62 JBL speaker. It looked like a piece of furniture. And I knew it was cool, and I knew it probably had value. So I got it in the house purchase. I threw it on Craigslist for $100. And in the first 15 minutes, I probably had 20 phone calls on it. And I knew I had it listed for too low because there was like 20 phone calls. And like the 4th or 5th guy, I said, hey man, level with me here. Why am I getting so many phone calls? Like, my phone was just blowing up the whole time I'm on the call, right? And he goes, you're selling it for way too cheap. Instantly, that was my guy. Because he told me, you're messing up here. He goes, I'll pay you more for it. Just don't sell it to anybody else. So he comes to my office. I show him the speaker, and I said, so what are you going to do with this speaker? And he says, I'm going to recone it. I'm going to rewire it. I'm going to sell it in Japan. And I can probably get $1,000 for it. And I said, cool. What do you pay me for it? He goes, I'll give you $400 for it. Remember, I was only asking $100. I'll give you $400 for it. Let me tell you why I just told that story. Let's take everything out about that story I just told you and replace it with what we do for a freaking living. Mm-hmm. When you walk into a house, you say, I think this house is worth $200,000. Not in today's condition. I have to rehab it. I have to get it to the right person. I have to. And by the way, that guy, he's in my phone as my stereo guy now. For the past 10 years, I've been selling him my stereo equipment. And hey, hold on, guys. Am I mad that he made money on me?
No, never.
Could I have reconed that freaking speaker and try to figure out how to get it to Japan myself?
You could, but it would have been a huge waste of time.
You mean like these people rehabbing their own damn house?
Yep.
Guys, it's the same analogy. Yeah. I love that analogy so much because it's like, because he was honest with me and he said, Phil, you're selling it for too cheap. Here's what you could do. By the way, I was never going to do it. I was never going to recoil a freaking speaker and try to get it to Japan. But he was the expert in that. We're the real estate experts, right? We're supposed to be. that seller should never rehab a house, guys. You think in this market right now, yes, the market's hot, but have you guys tried to rehab lately? Getting contractors is the worst thing in the world right now. And imagine being a layperson who never does it and being 3 states away. Are you kidding me? Come on.
Yeah, no, I love it. Justin says,
Yeah.
Mom's house.
I don't think I should be.
Go ahead, Gavin. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't think I should be rehabbing houses.
Me too. I totally agree, right?
It's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. It's not.
Yeah. But I love that analogy, guys. Thank you for letting me share that, because it felt,
my goodness,
when I realized how it was exactly in line with everything we do with real estate. I love that, because I'm not mad at that guy. In fact, I've sold him many, many more stereo equipment pieces over because I trust him to give me the right price for it. Am I mad he's going to make money? Hell no, because he's the expert in stereos.
I love it. I love it. So Justin says, Mom's house resonated with me because I've been involved closely in my own grandparents going through a terrible experience at the end of their life stage. And I think that Justin is, feeling what a lot of people are feeling. Like that experience isn't necessarily something that anybody looks forward to. However, we as investors, and Phil's great at coaching and teaching this, we can be there to help make that experience less terrible. It's always going to suck a little bit whenever somebody knows that they're going to need to sell their house, regardless if they stay in it or not. And I love that Phil has signs at his venue that says the F word is prohibited, but he's referring to facility, right?
Right.
Because nobody wants to go into a home or a facility, and you shouldn't use that word, by the way, or any F word.
You want to say the word community? It sounds so much more joyous,
sounds
right?
so much more enjoyable.
It's inviting.
I love it. So here, Phil, do me a favor. You have a couple really good statistics, and I know you have them on the top of your head, and I want you to throw those out, because every time I hear them, I'm like, wow. So one of them you already dropped, and that was that the majority of these elderly people, their houses they have tons of equity. Like what is the average number of somebody that is going to go into a community or would even sell and stay? I mean, typically in America, a lot of that wealth of America in general is held in equity in people's homes,
because they bought their houses long ago and they weren't the people to move every 5 years like our generation is, right?
Right.
We're in a very different. They stayed in their house, and that's another reason why the baby boomers, because we're talking about their parents right now, and as the boomers turn into the actual seniors, the boomers did not wait around for their parents' house to be like, I can't wait to inherit Mom's house. They already built their McMansions, and they have a life that's way more active than their parents did, right?
Correct.
And so that house is usually not wanted by anyone in the family. And if it was, it would never be a lead of mine anyway, right? These families, when they get to me, they realize they don't want to do all of that work.
Nathan says, I'm Mom's house certified. Phil's course is
perfect.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, Nathan. I try real hard, man. I feel like there's a Zig Ziglar line, and I'm going to chop it up badly. But you can have anything you want in this life if you give that much or more to others, right? If you give them what they need, other people. And I feel like that's what I'm doing here. Like, if we can help daughter Judy through this really hard time, this just super traumatic time, that the byproduct of caring about other people is real estate buying, right? I mean, there's plenty of money in real estate. We can all talk about gaudy numbers all day long, but we know there's money in real estate, but it's can you do something more fulfilling? And I think what Nathan was saying is it hits people. My program hits people differently to be like, hey, I didn't want to do these other types of things because it didn't sit with me right. This is something you can sink your teeth into, and it's got at least a 20-year run here in front of it. So thank you for that, Nathan. I appreciate that.
He says, but the St. Louis Blues are still going down. Shoot. They didn't lose at that Winter Classic last week. Last week.
That looked crazy, didn't it?
I love it. All right, so Phil, back to the statistics though. So on average,
run through some.
Yeah, like so there's some statistics that you've presented in front of me in the past, like
7 out of 10 Americans.
You know this stuff.
Sure, 7 out of 10 Americans over the age of 65 are going to live in some sort of assisted care before they pass away.
Repeat that, please.
7 out of 10 Americans over the age of 65 will live in some sort of assisted care before they pass away.
7 out of 10. That's 70%.
7 out of 10.
No matter what. 70%.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Well, people always tell me that I'm in a fun little niche.
Isn't there some statistics there about how long? And
yeah, it's only 28 months, right? They're only going to be there on average 28 months.
So 7 out of 10 people are going to end up in some sort of assisted care.
Yep.
And then they're going to be there on average for 28 months or less, basically, right?
Yep.
Which isn't
That's
that
exactly right.
long.
They're usually on a fixed income.
2 years. So you're talking 2 years and 4 months is basically So, I mean, when people go into these facilities, this is an end of life transition.
It is.
It is, right? I mean, there's no reason to avoid that topic. I mean, that's what they need. Help. They need care.
Here's a mind-blowing stat. Here's why the house is so important. If your only asset is the home, with a lot of these families, the only asset that they really have is the home. They might have a small pension, but the asset is the home that they need to unlock. Some communities, if you can pay private pay for 24 months, they'll let you live out the rest of her days under the Medicaid plan. They won't let her start with the Medicaid plan, and they won't put it on their masthead.
24 months
hey, we
in,
take
then
Medicaid. But because I think actuaries know if they pay private pay for 24 months and the average is 28, they'll let them pay that extra 4 months. They'll make less per month, but it's, the actuaries have said that that's okay. So sometimes, a lot of times, the sale of that house is, imagine this: you move mom into the senior living community that she liked, and she runs out of money in month 17, and now you have to take her out of her and put her into a true F word, a facility versus the community. Because guys, it's like hotels and motels, right? Some of these places look like a ski lodge, and some look like a, like a
3 or 4 people in a room, man.
Yeah, and it's scary, right? Could you imagine if you had to take your mom out and say, "Hey, sorry, you're out of money. Now we have to move to this thing." And so the house sale, a lot of times, is the thing that unlocks the equity. It's the only time I've ever seen where they don't. It's almost like they don't care what the house sells for. They just need to know that money's there because it gets ratcheted down until it's gone.
That's correct. So. Man, I love that. I love that. You are out here helping tons and tons of people, Phil. I love it. You have an amazing program. You have an amazing niche. I mean, you said it best. At some point, all of us, like it or not, are going to be involved in this in some way, shape, or form. So why not start now and get involved now and learn, how we can create lots of income and wealth on our end, but at the same time do so by helping other people, solving problems. I mean, really, at the end of the day, I would assume you guys agree with this, but I'm always looking for win-win scenarios. I think all investors are, right? We're always looking for a win-win scenario, and if it doesn't win, if they're not receiving a win, then it's not really a great deal for me, and vice versa. It's not a good deal for them. Like, you got to have that win-win, and you guys are out here, you're creating that. I love it. Nathan just says, you wait. Man, those Blues are going to kick some butt, I'm telling you, but whatever. I love it. I love it. So, Phil, you guys are doing 3-day events monthly, right?
Yeah, we're getting ready to have one next Monday, guys. I'm going to have 100 people in my office. It's the biggest one ever, and it's just growing and growing, and it's fun, We do them once a month, and if you guys ever want to get involved, it's momshouse.com/3day. The number 3 DAY.
I'll add that here. momshouse.com /
the number 3 DAY.
DAY. momshouse.com /3day. We'll throw that up here on the screen. We'll use Gavin's pretty face here. momshouse.com /3day. So in the 3-day event, I break it down. What's day 1? What's day 2? What's day 3? What's the premise? What's the purpose? So on.
Yeah. My goal is for everybody that comes through this is that they can build an actionable plan that they can take home with them on how to implement it in their own market. So to be clear, I teach them how to fish and I sell fish, right? I'm really building this leads business, but I only want to sell the leads to the people that have been through the training. Sure. And so the conundrum is, it's just, you've heard me talk about the empathy. It's not for everyone, and I'm okay that it's not for everyone, but the people like Nathan that have been through the training, like Don that's been through the training, you get it now. You're like, oh, yeah, okay, I get why this was so important to do this. And so in that 3-day training, we talk about the who, the where, and the how for them to be able to have this actionable plan for when they get home. And that's the big deal. I get a great sense of pride. I'm worn out after my 3-day. I'm mentally and physically tired from talking for 3 days. But after that 3-day, I get this really big sense of pride that I know 60, 70 people are going to go out into the world like Nathan's and are going to start spreading joy. We need more joy in this world, guys. This world is messed up. Man, oh man, I got young sons and I'm looking at them going, is this the first generation where their life might not be as good as mine? I don't know. And it's scary times. And I think this world needs more good things. And we try really hard to be that good thing. And so the training goes very deep into senior living. It's not a training on how to write a contract. It's not like negotiation. When I talk on negotiation a little bit, but it's truly about how do you build meaningful, substantial relationships in senior living with stakeholders that can refer business to you from now on. That's what we're training.
But it's great though, because you're training people on not just how to find one deal, how to find a faucet of deals,
An oil well. Yeah.
an
that keeps
oil
bubbling
well
out.
of
Yep.
deals. I love that.
And what I love
And
about
that's
senior living too,
awesome. And you're
guys,
creating win-win scenarios at the same time, which is
they
awesome.
use me as a tool, right? And so what I love about senior living people is you can build relationships with other real estate agents and other wholesalers, and it'll be good for a little while, but then they'll usually outgrow you or they'll start doing it themselves. They'll start seeing how much you're making, and it's hard to keep that relationship for 10 years, right? But senior living, I've been doing deals for over 11 years with the same people because I'm the tool for them to unlock that equity, so now they can do their job. Right.
Correct.
And that's why, and none of them have said, hey, I'm getting out of senior living, I'm getting into real estate. They don't do that. They stay in senior
No,
living.
not at all. They have no desire to try to do more.
Yeah.
Right. They want to focus on really helping people, getting them into these communities. And you are a tool to them to solve problems to where they can then do their job. And that's the beautiful thing is that most of the time, probably as high as 99% of the time, these people that are in charge of, I mean, what's the role? Like
executive director
of admissions or like whatever it may be, maybe in a little different name than that, but that's basically what they are. That's their job. Their job isn't to buy and sell houses, right? So you can come in, plug in, create relationships with these people, and then all of a sudden it gives you're the go-to guy, but also they present you as being the professional, so you don't have to necessarily come in and try to prove that. They're doing that for you. And you just come out there and you offer that solution. I love it.
Right.
It's awesome. So awesome.
Yep.
Very, very cool.
Love it.
Gavin, you got any questions for Phil?
Yeah, I can't see any of the chat guys because I had problems getting in, so I can't.
It's all good. I got it.
Happening. But yeah, I mean, Phil, like, how many people is a certain state? Well, let me ask this: is there certain states? Does your method work in every state? Like Don said about California, or we made that comment. Like, does this work in California? Does this work in like New York?
I think it
great,
works
great question.
Worldwide.
Yeah, it only works when people get old, Gavin. If they figure that out, I'm out of business.
Okay, well, let me ask you this though: the way that you teach it, do you have to, just like us when we're going virtual, right? We're trying to keep people, well, I am, out of San Francisco, right? I'm not going to say go virtual into San Fran or to New York or any of these places if you're going virtual. So obviously, yes, for your comment, everyone gets hold, but how are you teaching? Are you saying, look, you've got to speak with an attorney on the laws, or how does that go about, the way that you're doing your process, or is it exactly the same? Doesn't matter.
Well, here, let me just interrupt real quick before he answers. I think you may be confusing the buy and lease back to just the whole premise of Mom's House.
Yeah.
So
that's one part of it. Buy and lease back.
So Phil was saying, hey, buy and lease back. That's just one strategy that we can use of 100.
Yeah.
But I think what Phil's focused on, and again, I'm speaking on behalf of Phil, so I should probably shut up.
No, I think the comma's just in a different place. I mean, I think you're buying guys that are wholesaling deals in San Francisco, and I know guys making big licks in San Francisco, right? I think the comma's just in a different place. I think your exit strategies might be different. I love that you said San Francisco. I know plenty of people that say this is $1 million teardown, and the family knows they're going to pay 50, 5% commission, right? So they're going to net $950. You can buy that house all day long for $950, and you can call any builder in town who's craving inventory, and he will write you a check for that $1 million because he doesn't care. He's not emotional. He wants it, and you can make that $50,000 lick all day long. But that's a different exit strategy than it might be in St. Louis or Baltimore or wherever, right? And so I think with anything, the numbers just change. I mean, people are doing this business in Los Angeles, Seattle. The numbers are just in a different place, right? I don't think the emotional side is any different at all. I don't think people living there forever. One thing I've heard in California is the capital gains problem, because you know how for a married couple it's over $500,000. That comes into play more in areas where they bought it in San Francisco for $112 and now it's worth $850. But that's all stuff that they have to deal with anyway. It doesn't. What you're forgetting is that they still have to sell it, right? They still have to move into senior living. They still need to realize that equity. I believe, to answer your question, the business is the same. It's just there's nuances of each city that you just have to know. And that's, once again, like what Don was saying, why I don't do deals in Seattle personally. I don't know that there, right? I'm not a local Seattle expert, but the people that I work with are.
Right.
Got it.
No, that's a great answer, guys. You can do this anywhere. It doesn't even have to be in the United States. I mean, people are moving into communities, or in some cases, facilities. We don't like that word, but in everywhere. It doesn't matter where you live. You could be in South Africa. You could be in Indonesia. You could be in Taiwan, right? It doesn't matter. people own houses. They need to sell these properties so they can fund their, I don't want to say final days.
Retirement. You can say final
It's
days.
a better way to word it, right?
Yeah, I you know what people think of senior living as a place you go to die, and what we really want to try to is it's the place where you go to live out the best days of your life. Guys, you know what happens at senior living? They eat pie, they watch baseball, they play cards, they drink alcohol, and they dance with each other.
They have workout classes, the dancing.
They dance with each other. I mean, it sounds pretty great. I'm 43.
Playing bridge. I don't even know what that is, but they do it. Right.
Okay, I want to hammer something here. So Matt said when you buy and you're getting the deed when you're renting back to them. The answer would be yes, but again, it's only one strategy, and I want to make sure no one's confused here. Like that was one strategy, and David's hit on that. That was one strategy. You can wholesale these. You can buy and rehab these. You can buy and rent them out or rent them back. There's many strategies. We all come across these deals when we're casting our big net. When we're doing our marketing, we come across these deals from time to time. We come across people with reverse mortgages. We come across seniors. We come across family. We come across probates. We come across foreclosures. What Phil's teaching you to do is position yourself properly so that these deals come to you as a lead flow without you having to do outbound marketing, and come to you before your competitors are marketing to them, and position yourself as the expert that they can trust over your competitors if your competitors happen to be talking to them too.
That was 3 things.
That was perfect, Don.
I love it.
So that's what you're getting from Phil.
I love
Thank
it.
you, guys.
Yeah,
I should be your spokesman, dude.
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
And the whole buy and lease back thing is a great option. Don't avoid it. Just be careful if they are, if they're in pre-foreclosure or something along those lines. And that's really, to be honest, that's a really small subset, guys. Typically, we're buying these properties so they can move out, not so they can stay, right? Yeah. So again, I'm really glad that we clarified that, though. That's
yeah.
Really,
I just think
really
that's
important.
where the things could head to in the future. It's not even as much today, part of my business. I think I see that maybe being a thing that's going to get bigger and bigger.
I love it. I love it. Well, guys, I do want to respect Phil's time. Phil, thank you so much for coming on.
Of course.
Coffee with Closers Live. We love having experts on this show that we can talk to and ask questions and interact with. Guys, don't forget, check out momshouse.com, or if you're interested in going to the 3-day event, which I highly recommend you check out because it is filled with gold nuggets, check out momshouse.com / that's just the number 3 and then day. There's no dash or anything in there.
Nope, that's perfect right there.
Like
just
that.
how it is on the screen.
Momshouse.com / 3-day, and that's the number 3, not spelled out. And I can say not only is Phil a really, really good friend, but he is one of the best people in the industry to teach this stuff, and his level of integrity is through the roof. I love this guy like a brother, and I don't say that about a lot of people other than the other 2 guys that are on this call right here. So love this guy, highly recommend him. Check him out. And with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe.